Hey, Jeff, thanks for joining me.
Hey Steve, thanks for having me again.
Good to have you. Hey, got a good clickbait headline here, but some truth behind it. We're seeing some deep discounts emerging for some empty office buildings. Now, we're talking about some downtowns that are struggling. We're talking about generally older office buildings that are less in demand, but we are really seeing steep discounts as much as 70% for opportunistic buyers. And this is including like Manhattan buildings. Again, mostly those aging buildings, the ones with weak tenant demand out post pandemic, the ones that are looking maybe at some having some real issues around refinancing at today's higher rates environment. And we're seeing bargain hunters coming out, usually all cash buyers, and scooping up some of these properties again at some really, really steep discounts. Some of your thoughts on the distressed deal making we're seeing here.
I think when I think about this one right now, it's we just did what I forget what the article was called, but something recently on Boston and San Francisco and some of these other areas where they just have that doom cycle. And I think in a large way, what's happening is you're getting people that have to sell, so they'll sell for a steep discount to get rid of it and let somebody else who has more capital come in and do the work and try to get it, back to where it needs to be. I'd probably add to that as well. I think in a large way, like, the implication of this article is again doom and gloom, and that it's clickbait that office is dying. That's just not true. It's just going through a rougher patch, and it'll come back around, maybe in a different form or format. But it doesn't just die. And I think maybe the last point I might make is that if you're willing to take a property that is let's just call it what it was. Opportunistic buyers are going to take a property at deep discount and maybe change the use and make it a mixed use project, or change the dynamics of what the property looks like, or do something different. It creates a viable opportunity that the traditional property owners don't necessarily see.
Yeah, and I think again, one of the things I struggle with some of these articles is they can give an impression of commercial real estate is falling off a cliff, or they can give an impression the entire office sector is falling off a cliff. Um, and that's not accurate, but it's also not accurate to say there aren't any problems in the office sector,
Of
and we
course.
clearly know where they are. They're in some downtowns, specifically downtowns that are just office. They don't have like a lot of restaurants or ballparks or nightlife or retail or it's mainly just office. They're the older buildings, and when you get that mixed together, it really is having some real challenges. And to a degree, if you're an investor coming in, uh, you are trying to catch a falling knife here, but that's partly the office market's doing well, and the top tier buildings are doing much better. You go to the suburbs, you go to certain cities. We've got some office in Miami. We targeted the Savannah, Charleston area. So it's just again with real estate, kind of the old joke of the three most important things are location, location, location. Well, in this case, it's location, location, and age of the building. And if you're in the wrong spot there in office, you've got some challenges. But if you're not, it's a different story.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm I tend to agree, and maybe not as much on the side of age, because if you are in the right location with office, it can be a really good opportunity. The other side is that again, maybe I'll say it a little differently. If you can be creative in how you run and manage office, then it doesn't have to be doom and gloom. It just doesn't. It's not, people who are running it just to be office people trying to lease out, 35,000 square feet to one tenant it's problematic. There just aren't enough 35,000 square feet tenants out there.
Yeah, and then the other thing I would throw in that these articles hardly ever touch upon is a lot of the downtown office areas that are struggling are ones associated with some government policies, some social policies that have really jacked up crime rates and stuff like that. And I know people making good money, companies paying good money they're not going to go to downtown San Francisco if that means their employees having their cars broken into constantly because there's so many other opportunities in surrounding areas. And so that is an element of this that doesn't get quite talked about a lot. But
Right.
those downtowns that are struggling with some real social issues, it impacts, not surprisingly, impacts the desirability of the buildings. And not all those workers are sitting at a keyboard working from home. Yeah, we've seen a shift to hybrid work where they're in the office and at home more. Um, but it's not a story of just remote work driving this. That's a misnomer. So just kind of
Yeah.
want to throw out, it's a lot, as you and I talk, it's a lot more complicated than what you can get from the headlines.
But
But
I think
yeah.
you actually kind of hit something there, and it maybe just didn't dawn on me is that really what you're kind of doing when you're talking about office, you're talking about social impact in downtown areas. What you actually do is impact the viability of investors coming into those areas and putting money into buildings out of fear of and let's just call it maybe because it was a clickbait fear, right? Like an article that said that you're having a ton of social impact and problems and or a host of problems in an area down near a property that you're in the middle of due diligence buying. Well, you might think twice about buying it and say, well, no, I'm going to pass on this one because looks like there's some disruption that could impact my investment and in my potential tenants' desire to either stay as tenants or even come in and occupy space.
No, yeah, I think uncertainty definitely impacts. Hey, appreciate the insights, Jeff. Thanks a lot. If you enjoyed the video, give us a thumbs up, subscribe if you have not already, and visit our website, selectfincap.com, and get on our list for looking at exclusive commercial real estate investment opportunities. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Steve.